In this video, I'm going to be explaining exactly what positive expected value betting is. I'm going to explain why it's the most profitable sports betting strategy currently online, and why it's possibly the best way to actually make money online in general. I was able to profit over $145,000 in 2025 strictly EV betting with no other strategies, and I can show you exactly how you can make from $5,000 to $20,000 pretty much every single month strictly EV betting. As you can see on screen, I made over $4,000 in just the first week of April EV betting, and it has also changed other people's lives, like Matt, who was able to make $14.7 thousand EV betting in just 1 month in November, and TJ, who made about $9,000 EV betting in just December alone. By just EV betting, you can see the results you get on a month-to-month basis or even in a year's worth of work. Now, why doesn't everybody EV bet? Not everybody understands the math and the data behind EV betting. I'm going to now explain that to you in the most simple way possible, so follow along. So what is EV betting? You're placing bets that are mathematically guaranteed to profit over the long term. And when I mean long term, I mean a large sample of bets. That way you're removing variance and allowing luck to completely be removed from the scenario. You want the math to play the factor and not the luck. So the first things we need to understand are how books make their money, how odds differ across the books, and how the odds move very fast. So let's understand how the books actually make their money. Now, using the coin flip trick, I can explain how the sports books make their money in a very simple way. Now, a coin is 50-50, heads or tails. So if you flip that coin 100,000 times, you should be breaking about 50% heads, 50% tails. But what everybody knows is that doesn't mean anything with a small sample size. If you flip a coin 3 times, you could land heads on all 3 times, you could land tails on all 3 times, or you could go 2 and 1, or vice versa, 1 and 2. What that means is luck is playing a huge factor on which side it lands. To remove variance and to remove that quote-unquote luck, what you want to do is you want to flip that coin over 100,000 times. That way the math breaks down instead of the luck, and that math will break down to 50% heads, 50% tails, as close as possible. So when we're betting on sports books, what we should be getting is plus 100 and minus 100 on both sides. So the fair odds would be plus 100, minus 100 for a 50-50 coin flip. If you bet $100, you should win $100. That would be breaking even. That would be a 50-50 bet. Now, the book's odds don't operate this way. They essentially include VIG, aka juice, into their lines, which is essentially just a tax/fee that they charge for playing on their book. Now, this is how they make their real money. They're setting their odds at minus 110 and the other side being minus 110 instead of plus 100 and minus 100. That way they're able to actually profit no matter which side you bet. This is like weighting a coin at 52% heads and 52% tails. Doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't add up. So as you can see here, at minus 110 odds, if you bet $110 instead of 100, you only win 100. And that's negative EV. A 50-50 play, heads or tails, and you're getting negative $10 every single time you land on either of them. So essentially you lose $4.80 every single time you bet $100 on their book/app. Now, that's for straight betting. Imagine if you're building parlays on apps like PrizePicks, Underdog, or any other DFS app. The more legs you put on a parlay, the more odds you're gonna stack up, the more juice you're gonna stack. Now, if you have one bet, minus 110 on the over, minus 110 on the under, it adds up to 104%. You lose 4.8% on that bet. Now, imagine if you put 2 legs at 4.8% loss on every single bet. You would be getting a 9.4% loss on every $100 you bet. What if you create a PrizePicks 5-flex parlay? A 26% loss means you will lose $26 every $100 you bet on 5 pick flexes on PrizePicks or any other app that has minus 110 or plus 110. Now, luckily for us, this doesn't mean we're guaranteed to lose, because although we can find negative EV bets just like this one, what we can do is find the true odds and the fair odds and compare it to the sharpest books in the world. That way we're able to find books that are mispriced and allow us to get a better price than what we're being offered on the sharpest book. For example, the same bet on different apps can have different odds. Here's an example of the same play but with different odds across the books. We could have Fanatics that have plus 190 on Mason Rudolph's over 1.5 passing touchdowns at the same time as having BetMGM at plus 154. And then if we take a look at DraftKings and it has plus 150 and Caesars at plus 143, we'll notice all 4 books have slightly different odds. How do we get positive expected value? What we want to do is we want to compare our book that we're betting on, for example Fanatics, and compare it to the rest of the market. So as we can see here, plus 190 compared to the rest of the market at plus 154, plus 150, and plus 143, we'll notice this is a huge discrepancy, a huge edge at plus 190. If we take this bet on Fanatics and bet $100, we win $190 profit. Whereas if we take the same bet on BetMGM, we win $100 and we only win $154 profit. Now that's a positive expected value bet. The same bet we take on Fanatics literally pays 33% more than it does on Caesars. And that means we need to scan the market and find the best odds on the best books to be able to take advantage of these EV bets. What's going on, everybody? Just quickly before the video continues, you can literally get all of my plays where I build just like this for 50% off if you use code YouTube at checkout with the first link in the bio. Plus, you can get all the tools I use for 5 days for free with the link below. Plus, if you use code ICON at checkout, you'll get 25% off. Now let's get back to it.
Now, how do we know what a fair price is? We need to look at the sharp book. Sharp books are the most accurate odds on the planet. Those are the billion-dollar companies that take the most action. We compare against those books. Now, if we take a look at some of these books, the sharpest books in the world are Pinnacle, Circa, FanDuel. If we're looking at game line, money line, or spreads, we want to take a look at Pinnacle, which is the sharpest book in the world. Or we can take a look at Circa, which is a very, very sharp book right behind it. Now, if we're looking at player props, we want to look at FanDuel, the sharpest player prop book in the world. And we compare it to books like DraftKings, BetMGM, and Fanatics, where these are a little bit slower on the market, but they are still somewhat sharp, where we can take advantage by looking at these sharp books and comparing the odds we have on these books. Now, what we can see here is comparing to the 4 sharpest player prop books other than FanDuel, we can see minus 191 on Pinnacle, minus 193 on NoVIG, minus 198 on ProfitX, minus 180 on DraftKings. That is over 50 to 60 cents difference compared to the 4 sharp books that we have to compare to on player props. So what do we want to do here? If the entire sharp market is all listing this prop at minus 190, we want to take this exact prop for minus 130 and get a much better price for our bet. As you can see on FanDuel, if we take this exact same bet at minus 132, we get $175 back after betting $100, a $75 profit. Whereas over here on NoVIG, if we take this exact same bet and bet $100, allowing us to only get $151 back, that is a $24 discrepancy when betting $100. Now, this only means anything if we're betting against the sharpest books in the world. Like I mentioned before, game lines, money line, spreads, we want to be looking at Pinnacle, we want to be looking at Circa. For player props, we want to be looking at FanDuel, and we want to be looking at DraftKings. And we also want to be using NoVIG and ProfitX, 2 very, very sharp exchange books, to compare to all of these money line, spreads, totals, player props. If we take that into consideration and see all sharp books basically pay us back $50 to win this bet, we can take this exact same bet on FanDuel and get $71 profit back. That is a positive expected value bet. Now, what is a positive expected value bet? We essentially just want to get a better payout than what the sharp books are offering. Now, what does this mean? If we're taking the Lakers money line and we take them at plus 190, we want to compare to sharp money line books, like we mentioned, Pinnacle, Circa, NoVIG, ProfitX. If those books are offering it at plus 175, we have about a 7% edge on this play. That's a positive expected value bet. We're getting a better payout at plus 190 than we would on the sharpest books in the world at plus 175. The sharpest books in the world set their lines at the correct lines. They just add tax and fees to it. So if we can find a discrepancy, like one of the books we're betting on has a much better line than what the sharpest books are offering, we want to take advantage. That's how we bet plus EV. Now, doing it by hand is almost impossible to do yourself. There are hundreds of thousands of bets every single day live at any moment. Between all the sports books, the player props, the money lines, there's way too many bets at one time to be able to continuously make these bets yourself. What's the fix? An app just like Upside Tools, and you can get a 5-day free trial plus 25% off if you use code ICON at checkout, and you can try this tool for free yourself. You can make as many positive expected value bets you can in 5 days and allow yourself to actually make money sports betting. Now, what is Upside? It's essentially a tool where you can continuously track EV bets, EV game lines, EV player props to where you're able to continuously make EV bets. Take a look at this screen, for example. Now, if we take a look at PrizePicks, the Lakers playoff game tonight, we have Rui under 4 rebounds at minus 119 on PrizePicks. Now, if we look at the rest of the market, we can see that every single other book has it lined at 3.5 rebounds, a huge 0.5 discrepancy at 3.5 rebounds. If we take a look at Pinnacle, NoVIG, ProfitX, DraftKings, and FanDuel, we can notice all 5 of these books have this lined at 3.5. All 5 considered to be a little bit more on the sharper side for player props. FanDuel, the sharpest player prop book in the world, has it listed at minus 114 under 3.5 rebounds. Slightly favored to go under the 3.5 rebound line when we're getting a 4 rebound line on PrizePicks. Now, all we have to do now is take this exact line on PrizePicks at 4 rebounds and take the under, which is a 50-50 payout platform, and we take this exact 4-point rebound line and take the under and get a much better payout than we would on FanDuel, DraftKings, or any of the sharp exchanges, or even Pinnacle. Now that you can understand what plus EV betting actually is, I know you might be excited to absolutely blast some EV bets, but what you have to understand is that does not mean you're going to win every single bet. Just like the coin flip trick earlier that I explained, it does not mean because you have a 54% weighted on heads that you're going to land on heads the next 25 times. What it means is over a sample size of 1,000 bets, you are going to win 54% of the time and have actual profit from sports betting. The wrong mindset mindset is to lose 10 bets in a row and quit, place 50 bets and say it doesn't work, or skip plays that quote unquote look bad even though the EV says it looked good. If you don't like the fact that we're taking an under on LeBron James, it does not matter. Remove your emotions and only play based on math. That is how you actually profit during sports. Sports betting can be tricky because we may believe things aren't supposed to happen, or we believe that things aren't going to happen because of things we may know or biases we may have, or we don't want to bet on the sharpest books, or we don't want to bet on our favorite teams to lose. But when you're sports betting with math and with a lot of money, you have to understand you have to follow EV, otherwise you will not be profitable. I can assure you that these million-dollar companies like FanDuel, Pinnacle, Circa, ProfitX, and the exchanges that have very, very sharp bettors betting on them, they know a lot more about setting lines than we do, even though we may think LeBron's going to go over tonight. A winning mindset would be betting the math, not what you think, staking the size correctly and having a correct unit size, placing every single bet that the EV Plus optimizers offer to you, and judge over 1,000 bets, not 50 bets. Now, this is a very important metric, the closing line. What is the closing line value? It is the number one sign that you're actually a profitable sports bettor. If you're betting odds and they're getting worse as the game gets closer and after you place your bet, that means you're getting closing line value. So let's explain that. If you bet a line at plus 110 and you get that exact bet where you place $100 and you win $110 back, you get a total return of $210. If the line then moves to a worse line for you at minus 120, where you actually return less money if you bet $100, you now got closing line value. So if you placed a bet at plus 110 and it gets moved to minus 120 later after you placed your bet, you beat closing line and you got more bang for your buck when placing that bet. Imagine you go to a gas station and you see the price is $2.85. You get gas and then 4 hours later you go straight back to the gas station and you see the price is $3.20. You beat the closing line value and you got more bang for your buck. That's how EV betting works. Now, how do we know if we're beating the closing line value if we're actually putting in EV bets over the long term? Track every bet. As you can see on screen, I've made over $4,000 in just the first week of April, and I have a 5.80% ROI on all of my bets in just 1 week. You can download Pickit completely free and track every single bet, allowing you to know if you're beating closing line value, if you're actually profiting with every bet, and able to see app to app on how much you're actually making in units or money profit. Now, a lot of people ask me, how much money do I need to actually start EV betting? It doesn't matter. You can start betting with $100, $500, 10 grand. It does not matter. If you start with $500, for example, all you have to do is bet 1% of that bankroll per unit. What is a unit? A unit is a metric system to track how much money you're putting on every single bet. So if I have a $5 unit size, which is 1% of $500, I have 100 units to play with. That would mean I would have to go down 100 bets before losing my entire bankroll. And that's how we eliminate variance. That's how we eliminate the luck factor when we're betting on sports. Like I mentioned with the coin flip trick, we want to make sure we're flipping the coin as many times as humanly possible. So that way we don't get quote unquote unlucky and we're able to just let math do its job. Every single $100 profit, you should be raising your unit size $1. At $750, you should be betting $7.50. At $1,000, you should be betting $10. And once you get to about $2,000, you notice your ROI is incredible. You're actually building your bankroll. You're doing things right. Now you'll notice that your bankroll will start growing very, very fast. You're betting much bigger units. You're putting in a lot more parlays as you've learned, and you're able to actually scale this $2,000 to over $10,000 to the point where you're actually able to make 5 to 10K every single month if you're just putting in enough volume at a big enough unit size. Sports betting can actually become a side income if you do everything correctly. If you protect your bankroll, if you're putting in EV bets, if you're putting in enough bets and eliminating variance, and if you're beating the closing line value. Let's completely recap EV betting. How do books win? They bake an edge of 4.8% into every single line, and most bettors lose by design. If you're putting in enough bets at a minus 4.8% EV, you are literally going to lose on the long term. And that's how these billion-dollar companies keep all of their players betting. They don't profit off of every bettor 15% every bet. So the bettors can't even realize that they're losing on the long term. That's the quote-unquote edge, the house edge. And that's why casinos and that's why sports betting companies are so profitable. We want to revert that by looking at different books with different odds for the exact same bet and comparing them to the sharpest books in the world, Pinnacle, FanDuel, etc. Those sharp books will reveal what the real odds should be, and we can find discrepancies on the books we're betting on to compare to. That way we get an EV edge. What is plus EV? Books that pay you more than the true fair odds to the sharpest books in the world. If a Lakers money line on Pinnacle is at plus 100, but on Hard Rock we get plus 150, we're getting a 50-cent edge to the sharpest book in the world. That means there's a huge discrepancy on Hard Rock, and we want to take advantage and get that 50-cent edge, which is a positive EV bet. Math guarantees profit long term, not short term. And Upside Tools will literally do this for you in real time. They scan hundreds of books every single day, every single minute, allowing you to see the most profitable EV bets to take on the board every single day. All you need to do is scale your bankroll appropriately, bet 1% unit size, bet as much as you can to eliminate variance, track everything using something like Pickit, beat the closing line on a day-to-day day-to-day basis, and then you will be printing money, sportsman.
I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications. That way you don't miss another one just like this. And if you do want to get all my plays 50% off, code YouTube with the first link in the bio. Or you can try the tools yourself for free. Use code ICON at checkout, and you'll also get 25% off with your 5-day free trial. I'll see y'all later. Peace.